Magic Treehouse. Late Lunch with Llamas. Written by Mary Pope Osborne. Chapter 3. That bridge? They stole your baby llama? Said Annie. Yes, cried Topa. She belongs to me. Kriya is an orphan, and so is Topa, said the old man. Now Kriya is Topa's whole world. He takes great care of her. I tried to fight them, said Topa, but they laughed at me. They took her to cross the bridge. It was so foggy I couldn't see them. I heard them laughing. I heard her crying. I heard her little bell ringing. Why did they steal her? Asked Annie. Topa wiped his eyes. One man said, Grab her. Her coat shines like silver. There are none like her anywhere in the secret city, said Topa. The secret city, said Topa's grandmother with dismay. The secret city? Jack repeated. What's that? It's near the top of Old Mountain, said Topa's grandfather. There's no hope if they take the small one up there. Topa let out a wail. He buried his head against his grandmother and shook with sobs. Oh, I am sorry, Topa. I am so sorry, the old woman said, rocking him. The small one, Annie said to Jack. Old Mountain. They're both in our rhyme. I know, said Jack. He remembered. High on Old Mountain is a creature to save. Bring back the small one. Find the secret of brave. This is our mission. We have to save her, Annie said. Overhearing Annie, Topa whirled around. You will help? He said through his tears. You will find Kriya and bring her back home? We will try, said Annie. No, you cannot, the old man said sharply. You are not allowed in the secret city. None of us are. No more talk of this, said the old woman. Jack and Annie climbed up from the valley, Topa. They must return home now. Here, she handed Jack 2 baked potatoes wrapped in leaves. Take these for your journey. Oh, okay, thank you, said Jack. He put the warm potatoes into his bag. Grandmother, can I show them the short way back to the valley? Asked Topa, wiping his tears. Yes, said the old woman, nodding. Show them the path, then come straight home. She looked at Jack and Annie. After Topa points out the way, you must send him back to us. Don't worry, said Jack. We will. Follow me, Jack and Annie, said Topa. The small, barefoot boy started out of the meadow. Thank you for the potatoes, Jack said to the old couple. Then he and Annie hurried to catch up with Topa. When they were out of sight of his grandparents, Topa grabbed Annie's hand. You're not really going home now, are you? He asked. First you'll find Kriya in the secret city? Yes, of course. We'll do our best, said Annie. Wait, said Jack. We don't know anything about this secret city. What is it? I do not know, said Topa. It's a secret. Why? Are you afraid? No, I'm not afraid, said Jack. How do we get there? Come, I will take you to the rope bridge, said Topa. Jack and Annie followed the boy between the pines and cedars. Topa led them through high ferns and bushes, and under more trees with giant hanging pods. Topa, what do we do after we cross the bridge? Annie asked. Is there a path? Yes, on the other side is the old trail, said Topa. They took Kriya that way, but you shouldn't follow them. They might see you. There is another way to the secret city. What is it? Said Jack. After you cross the bridge, "Climb through the brush up to the high ridge," said Topa. "I have heard Grandfather say it's faster than the old trail. But watch out for snakes." "Snakes?" said Jack. "Did you say snakes?" Topa stopped and looked back at them. "Yes. Why? Are you afraid of snakes?" "No, I'm good. Keep going," said Jack. Topa led them through the brush to the misty edge of Young Mountain. Jack heard the distant roar of a rushing river. Across the way he could barely see the peak of Old Mountain. It was partially hidden by clouds. "There, that's the rope bridge," said Topa. A sagging footbridge stretched over the gap between the two mountains. The bridge swayed in the breeze. It seemed to be made entirely of rope, even its railings. "That's the bridge?" said Jack. "Seriously?" "Yes," said Topa. "Yikes," said Annie. "Don't worry, I'll look in the guide," Jack said. "There has to be a different way to cross." "No, there is not," said Topa. "This is the only way from Young Mountain to Old Mountain." "But this bridge looks really unsafe," Jack said. "The royal guards crossed it," said Topa. "And Kriya did too. Are you afraid to cross?" "No, I'm not," said Jack, annoyed. "Actually, Jack is afraid," Annie said. "But Annie, actually, I'm not afraid," said Jack. "Oh, okay, I just," started Annie. "Forget it," said Jack. "I've got this. Come on, let's cross the bridge." Chapter 4. Mountain Sickness. "Thank you, Jack and Annie," said Topa. "After we cross, I will lead you through the forest to the secret city." "No, Topa," said Annie. "I'm sorry, but you can't come with us. We promised your grandparents that we would send you home." "But you need me to help you find Kriya," Topa cried. "I am old enough. I am not afraid." "We know you're very brave, Topa," said Annie. "And that's why you have to go back and take care of your grandparents. They need you." Topa started to protest. There were tears in his eyes. "If you don't go home, we won't go to the secret city," said Annie. "We have to keep our promise." The small boy sighed. "All right, you go." "We'll see you later," Annie said kindly. "And we'll bring Kriya back." "Be very careful," said Topa. "If the guards see you—" "I know, we've got this," said Jack. "Come on, Annie, let's just go." Jack stepped onto the bridge. As soon as he did, it swung from side to side. "Whoa," Jack said. "Careful," said Annie. "I'm okay," said Jack. He gripped the rope railings with both hands. He carefully placed one foot in front of the other. When he looked down, he saw a rushing river far below. Foamy water flowed through a narrow gap between steep mountainsides. Jack stopped. The sight made him dizzy. "Don't look down," Annie called. "I'm right behind you." "Good plan," Jack whispered. He looked up and took a deep breath. Jack inched his hands along the rope railings. Walking carefully, step by step, he stared through the mist at Old Mountain. His heart was pounding. "So far, so good," Annie called. "Sort of. Pretty much," Jack whispered. The bridge was swaying. He could hear the roar of the river below. but he kept going until he reached the end and stepped onto Old Mountain. Annie stepped off the bridge a moment later. "We made it," breathed Jack. "Good luck," Topaz shouted. The small boy waved from the other end of the bridge. Then he turned and disappeared between the trees. Jack pointed to a stone path that led away from the bridge. "That must be the trail the guards took," he said. "Right," said Annie. "But Topaz said we shouldn't go that way. We should go through the forest up to the secret city." "Hold on, I need to check something first," Jack said. He pulled out their Andes travel guide and looked in the index for snakes. He turned to the right page and read aloud. "Peru has 200 species of snakes. 3 types found in Andean cloud forests are shown here." Below was the photo of a red snake with black and yellow bands. The caption said, "Harmless milk snake." Another photo showed a dark snake with a pale belly. The caption said, "Very rare fishing snake." A third showed a black and green snake. The label said, "Highly venomous pit viper." "Whoa," said Jack. "What does venomous mean?" said Annie. "It means that if it bites you, you could die," said Jack. He closed the book. "Okay, I have a question." "What?" said Annie. "Why does Morgan want us to work so hard just to save one little llama?" said Jack. "It doesn't make sense." Annie thought for a moment. Then she said, "Yes, it does. Sometimes small things are huge things. To Topa, his baby llama is as big as the whole world." "Okay, I get that," said Jack, nodding. "Let's go on, but keep an eye out for snakes, especially black and green ones." Jack and Annie started up through the jungle-like forest that led to the secret city. As they climbed through brush and weeds, Jack looked around for snakes. Struggling through tangles of vines, brambles, and prickly shrubs, he was still on alert. "Ow!" Annie shrieked. Jack jumped. "What, a snake?" he cried. "No, thorns," said Annie. "I got scratched." "That's all?" said Jack. "You didn't have to make such a big deal about it." "I didn't," said Annie. "I just said ow." "Whatever," said Jack. "Maybe we should have taken the old trail. It probably doesn't have thorns. Or snakes." "Too late now," said Annie. "Just keep going." Jack and Annie kept climbing. As they made their way up the mountain, Jack felt less alert. He started feeling faint and short of breath. Annie stopped. "Something's wrong," she said, huffing and puffing. "Yeah," murmured Jack. "Let's take a break." He stopped near a pile of rocks. "Good idea," said Annie. Gasping for breath, they both sank to the ground. Jack felt like he might throw up. "Maybe we're getting mountain sickness," he said. "What's that?" said Annie. "I don't know exactly, but I've heard of it," said Jack. He pulled out their travel guide. He looked up mountain sickness. "It's here," Jack said. He read aloud. "Mountain sickness. People breathe oxygen to live. The higher you climb, the less oxygen there is. If you go up the Andes too quickly, you can feel sick and have trouble catching your breath. Climb slowly to give your body time to get used to less oxygen. Drink lots of water." We don't have water, said Annie, panting. But we can go slower. Right, slower, said Jack. Ah! Annie shrieked, leaping up. What? What? Jack yelled, leaping with her. Snakes! She cried.